Okay, this should be good too. I think we are good. Yep. Okay, we're good.
The judges are good. Okay, let me know. All right. Is anybody not ready? Awesome. Resolution. The United States federal government should significantly increase its economic support for the Republic of Yemen. Plan. The United States federal government should significantly increase its economic support for the Republic of Yemen by using the President's emergency plan for AIDS relief to direct $150 million to Yemen. Background, 1. PEPFAR is credited with having saved 26 million lives and enabling 7.8 million babies to be born without HIV infection. Studies found that PEPFAR funding is associated with several spillover effects, including significant reductions in all-cause mortality, increases in childhood immunizations, and GDP growth, and retention of children in school. 2. PEPFAR is overseen by the U.S. Global AIDS Coordinator, a Senate confirmed position appointed by the President, holding the rank of Ambassador at the State Department's Bureau of Global Health Security and Diplomacy, or GHSD, and coordinates its implementation through government agencies with implementing partner civil society and recipient countries. Advantage 1, healthcare. Uniqueness, 1. Yemen has had generally bad healthcare infrastructure since the outbreak of civil war in 2014. Since then, only half of the hospitals have been open and operating at any level. 8 EMS workers in Yemen are severely depleted. There are only 10 healthcare workers for every 10,000 people. Less than half of the World Health Organization benchmark for basic health coverage, and only 5 physicians, less than 1/3 of the world average, and they are hardly being paid. C is 18% of the country's 333 districts have no qualified physicians at all, according to WHO. It has been worse since the COVID-19 pandemic, which basically used the majority of their healthcare resources. 2 is diseases are rising now. Yemen is ranking among the countries with the highest burden of acute cholera and is now facing additional challenges with tuberculosis and malaria due to reduced funding support for treatment centers, obesity, back posing serious public health risks and leading a huge gap. Yemen experiences a prominent peak illness season between July and October each year, during which malnutrition and other transmissible diseases spike, but bed occupancy and hospitalization rates soared. 3, though the number of HIV/AIDS cases in Yemen has remained relatively low as of the most recent WHO data in 2020, cases are rising. As of 2020, 11,000 adults aged 15 to 49 were living with HIV in Yemen. This was with a 68% increase in new HIV infections between 2010 and 2020. See, this was there was a 54% increase in AIDS-related deaths since 2010. Many of the people surveyed were not aware of their HIV status. 4, Yemen's healthcare problems are uniquely bad for HIV/AIDS. A 2022 study found that of an estimated 1,563 individuals living with HIV and needed antiretroviral therapy, only 30% began ART. Those who began treatment, only 75% remained on treatment 8 years later. A little even getting access to a clinic didn't guarantee access to care due to a lack of resources. 5 is HIV stigma is also very high amongst the general population. Medical professionals aren't well educated on HIV/AIDS. A 2021 study in a number of Yemeni hospitals found that eyeing into the hospitals and institutional policies against HIV stigma, double only 33% of health professionals had received HIV training, triple only 23% were confident that their HIV knowledge was adequate. IV, all the health professionals, including in the city, demonstrated HIV-related stigmatization, including 99% indicating that they would disclose positive HIV results to others without the patient's prior knowledge or consent. Because HIV-positive individuals are often forcibly family homes due to stigma and fear of infection on the part of family members. Links. 1. Plan passes leads to increase in HIV/AIDS testing and treatment being available, as well as better education on HIV and AIDS, particularly for medical professionals. As of September, PEPFAR is distributing lenacapavir, a breakthrough HIV drug which can both treat HIV-positive individuals and be used as PrEP, which only requires 2 injections per year. PEPFAR has historically improved healthcare systems and infrastructure more broadly spilled over to improving the healthcare system as a whole. Little after PEPFAR is especially good at improving maternal and child health, based on past studies. Impacts. 1 is health crisis. A, without good healthcare systems, people die of curable conditions. B, as the treatment diseases spread at higher rates, further increasing deaths. C, the lack of healthcare access is a form of structural violence that exacerbates divides between those with access to resources and those without insurance, as the poorest people are unable to break out of cycles of poverty. And then 2 is the end of pandemics. Viruses are getting significantly worse. Pandemics that pose one of the greatest risks to human fatalities globally. Highly lethal pathogens can kill their host after they spread. The next development of biotechnology can increase the likelihood of a mass outbreak. This will lead to catastrophic outcomes due to the rapid spread of pathogens. A is that COVID proves disparities in healthcare, disparities in healthcare put certain communities at risk, and that the next pandemic would lead to genocide for rural communities and the elderly, and then be often checked a pandemic can spiral out to extinction. 3 is HIV/AIDS. A, it kills people estimated around 550 per year. B, even if it doesn't kill people, it still is sucks health-wise. Is going to lead to worse health outcomes as a whole. And then C, HIV-related stigma is going to be uniquely bad because it's going to be a form of psychic violence. Advantage 2, non-kinetic deterrence. Uniqueness. 1. Conflict in Yemen and the involvement of hostile actors has led to the current state of the healthcare system. This is held aside Ace. Saudi inspectors and blockades on incoming cargo vessels has slowed and halted the entrance of medical supplies into the country, along with fuel that is necessary for the generators that power hospitals and clinics. B, movement restrictions have been placed on humanitarian staff, hindering aid delivery. C, healthcare workers have been kidnapped and facilities have been targeted. D, this targeting of healthcare has made conflict in Yemen particularly devastating for healthcare systems and infrastructure. 2, the Yemeni healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. A, only 55% of facilities are fully operational. B, the UN fully operational. B, the UN has been warning the Yemen's healthcare system is inching towards collapse for a year now, and conditions have not improved. In fact, they've been worsening. Briefing. CN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs briefing from the UN from 2 weeks ago described continued declines in funding damaging health systems further and said that soon half of Yemen's population will need humanitarian assistance. 3 Yemeni health refugees or those traveling to other countries seeking medical care are on the rise. Many patients with chronic or complex conditions have left Egypt, Jordan, and India for treatment. These countries' health systems are also struggling. A little life funding is declining for Egypt's health system, resulting in severe resource and personnel shortages, with doctors paying out of pocket for essential hospital supplies. Little double I, Jordan's healthcare system suffers from severe inequalities, with over 25% of citizens underinsured. The system is particularly struggling to respond to the influx of refugees, which it is designed to support. Links 1. The plan helps to stabilize the healthcare system in Yemen, which has a broader stabilizing effect on the country. Healthcare operates as a form of non-kinetic conflict deterrence because it stabilizes populations and fosters regional cooperation through health diplomacy. The lie warrant for this is that in 2005, the NGO partners in health began working in Eastern Rwanda to secure healthcare systems targeting maternal and child health, TB, and HIV care, and Rwanda was able to continue improving its healthcare system, achieve political stability in the immediate aftermath of these improvements, and experience high GDP growth. 2. A more stable healthcare system in Yemen means people can access services there and don't need to travel elsewhere, which reduces the burden on neighboring countries. Internal links 1. Yemen's healthcare system will continue to decline as healthcare professionals remain unpaid, and Yemen lacks the funding to sufficiently bolster its own healthcare system. A weakened healthcare system is also easier to attack, which creates a cyclical impact where healthcare gets worse and worse. And then 2. Complete healthcare system collapse in Yemen leads to political unrest as people become disillusioned with the government. And 3. Increases in health refugees to countries like Egypt and Jordan overburdens their health systems, leading to worsened outcomes in those countries and a risk of collapse there. Impacts when any healthcare system collapse both in Yemen and neighboring countries. You can cross-apply like the bad health outcomes from the previous sheet. This kills people. And then 2 is going to be Yemeni conflict is reunited. This is always going to result in people dying when conflict is happening. And then also infrastructure destruction persists beyond the end of conflict, which makes it harder to rebuild, increases poverty, and death in the long run. Poverty is going to be uniquely back to the cyclical impact. If you're born in poverty, you're more likely to live in poverty throughout the rest of your life. A single year in poverty takes up to 7 years off of your life. Underview. Roll ballot. Evaluate the simulated consequences of the affirmative against a competitive post-policy option of the status quo. 1. Policy making is key. State structures define our reality. We must learn how to operate within them. Make portable skills. Understanding policy structures define our reality and how we function. And the B is seeking the political failure to engage in policy structures means that the movements always fail and harms are perpetuated. Choose materials and disperse materials shifts our reality and how we interact with the world. All epistemological and ontological methods ultimately result in material methods and impacts, meaning that comparing material impacts is the best way to evaluate the debate. Even if ontology and epistemology are outside of material conditions, the way it gets operationalized through material actions with material consequences make materials necessary to evaluate their ontology and epistemology. 3 is dogmatism, theorizing absent considerations of material conditions of reality collapses into dogmatism. The material conditions change and the theory is no longer able to explain reality. 4. State is enabled U.S. history attempts to radically transform the government, rather failed to result in a reconstitution of state power between the state is enduring occupant Wall Street movement resulted in some demands being absorbed while overall stability was maintained. 8 close movements to democratic society sought to overhaul U.S. government structures, but internal division, state surveillance, and targeted repression led to their dissolution. And be the prisoners of the negates that individuals fail to act in mutually beneficial ways, absent the influence of a higher authority. That means that on the micropolitical level, and absence of the state, individuals either act against the interests of others or defer to stable authority.
Perfect. The United States federal government should significantly increase its economic support for the Republic of Yemen by using the President's emergency plan for AIDS relief to direct $150 million to Yemen, and then we'll evaluate the simulated consequences of the AF against a competitive post-policy option in the status quo. 2 minutes. So using this emergency plan for AIDS relief, is this where does the money specifically go?
Yeah, so what we tell you here is how PEPFAR works is it's aid that goes through the government, and essentially the U.S.'s PEPFAR people coordinate with the government to make sure that the money and medications and stuff are all delivered and make it into hospital systems.
So they're just giving them medicine?
It's a number of things. Medications are included within it, but it's also economic support. It's
what does economic support mean?
Money.
For what?
To pay.
Wait, so you give medication?
Yes, among other things.
Okay. What are the other? So paying healthcare professionals. Giving them medicine. What else?
Essentially, money often goes into strengthening infrastructure, right? So making sure the clinics can remain open, things like that.
Making sure the clinics remain open. Anything else?
What else do you want to know? Let's see. I mean, it's essentially whatever their healthcare system needs in order to deliver aid to people.
So can they increase ports strength?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. Cool. Let's go down to these diseases that are rising right now. Why are diseases rising right now?
In Yemen specifically, because they don't have an adequate healthcare system to check back.
So the root cause is the healthcare. If they had a good healthcare system, would we see diseases?
There would still be diseases, but they would be treated. They wouldn't be spreading as fast.
Where do these hospitals get built?
What?
Where does this medicine go? Where in Yemen?
In the healthcare system that exists. So hospitals, clinics that already exist.
So they do make existing hospitals. They do them exist. Geographically, where are these existing hospitals?
All over Yemen.
All over Yemen. Cool.
Yeah, not a specific spot.
Cool. What are the side effects of PEPFAR?
organization.
Or like the medicine the PEPFAR is giving?
Oh, the medicine. I'm not an expert on it.
Cool. How many am I reading? 4? 5?
4.
4 off.
Maybe on top.
As always, clear so if needed.
I'm gonna be on top.
And then underview on top. And then the 1AC in the order of solvency, add 1, add 2. I flipped solvency like with add 1. I'm not sure what you called it, but yeah.
Hold on, wait, one more time.
Yep, 4 off. And then solvency, add 1, add 2. Sorry, 4 off, underview solvency, add 1, add 2.
Okay.
Everyone good? Cool. Interpretation economic support refers to technical assistance. To clarify, technical assistance is a term of art referring to expert advice, training, analytical support, and institutional guidance to a particular institution for economic development violation. You give cash transfers through aid relief, and 2 is extra topical. You give them medicine, which is not economic support directly. Standards, 1 predictability. The only economic support the United States federal government currently gives is technical assistance. The United States doesn't give any healthcare support to make it inherently unpredictable for us to test us. 2 is limits any other interpretation of FX topical because you are not directly impacting the economy. You give rely on residual impacts of getting healthcare assistance by being economic. A, FX is bad because you're able to drive often beyond the economic support in the steps that lead to it, i.e. healthcare that we're not able to test, so we lose every round. In 3 is topic education. The topic writer specifically used the word economic support to ensure that we have debates about Yemen's economy. You are robbing us this debate about Yemen monetary policy, which is unique to this round. Thus, the voters want tiers A priority because exclusive evaluation, you know, rules given for you play. 2 is education, it's only people who do activity in the first place. 3 is fairness because exclusive evaluation is the only reason people do it competitively. 4 is competing into obscurity. After that, you get judgment mention. 5 drop debaters for future abuse. Next. What?
Clear.
To future abuse. Next. Framework 1, blackness is an ontological human, ontological category. A is humanism, the project of humanism, which is the foundation of white civil society needed negation in order to make itself coherent because boundaries delineate inclusion and exclusion. And B is the middle passage. The body was identified as the other, where the passage changes from African to black, stripping the black body of land, history, sovereignty, and abundant cues. Unintelligible category has continued. The black body has no analog and the 0 point of modernity. A is non-linear time. The black body traps itself in a perpetual state of open vulnerability. The modern state was an offshoot of the slave patrols that were used in patrol plantations. The B point is no analog. The oppression and fungibility of the black body is uncomparable. It serves no other purpose other than affirming the construction that human doesn't respond to action but supports the structure itself. 3, ontology overcoats all registers. It leads to violence that we can observe in other registers, but at its roots it's ontological. The 8 point material, the transition of material, 1 mechanism of ontological death because being enforced. Black Wall Street had material flourishment, was burned down in the Tulsa race massacre since the black body was ontologically backwards. And 4, your form of fiat as instances of anti-blackness. A is illusory. The plan never passes. Nothing ever changes for the black body, so nothing ever happens except the method. And B, the method is bad. A, the education is anti-black because it forces us in the confines of the state. And B, it's not unique because the black body has already faced the state violence, so we know the policy. Thus, the role of the ballots vote for the team for the best method of escaping white civil society. The links. 1 is libidinal cartography. Yemen is engineers a carceral zone where the black migrants live in hyper-incarceration. White intervention always upholds this. The Sada prison was used by the Yemen to systematically slaughter African migrants, and the medical support like the Red Cross they talk about went in to help make clinics more medically secure and rather than abolishing the slaughter machine that led to the death of 5,000 African migrants. And 2 is fungible aid. The Western Asian Yemen always bypasses the black population for Arabs, native Yemenis, where the black body starves untargeted in slums. Cambridge proves that white support spikes precisely for paternalistic aid that's conditioned distributed to the black body. This secure domination by nationalizing the black disposability as the unspoken baseline of humanitarian calculus. And 3 is white international relation appeals to liberalism and inherently presupposition of what subjects are worth engaging in the future order. There's a reason why the liberal order supports freeing Kosovo from Serbia debt trapping, but not Haiti from the France debt trapping. Thus, the impact of social death, the living state of extinction that stems from the removal from society where the black body is stripped of kinship, ties, ancestry, personhood, and community standing. 1 is root cause. Violence constitutes the technical construction of human, which is the oppression of even those identified substituting the inevitable under the white civil society. Violence is not contingent after effect of the system, but rather a constitutive fact. And 2 is reverse cause. The 1914 miscegenation laws were used a century later by Mitt Romney to justify why LGBTQ marriage was not allowed. And 3 is gratuitous violence upholds the system as a form where violence is imposed on any other method. Thus, the alternative, so impact is alternative gratuitous violence. That's the alternative. Vote negative for Arjun to take the journey of the deep sea dweller to Drexia. 1, Drexia. During the Middle Passage, African slaves were thrown overboard, giving birth to babies that never needed air. This is Drexia, underwater tribes existing socially and intellectually far beyond the development of the human race. A is method. The journey of the deep sea dweller is a method to revert ourselves outside the humanness where black Americans enter Drexia to escape whiteness. B is the journey solves its unique survival strategy where white society operates in a debate space. And C, the place solves by creating another outcome for the Middle Passage. Drexia opens a bifurcation in time which alters the present, transforming the ruin of ontological nation to becoming. D is thought solves. It creates a temporal fugitive zone for black traditions to live on. And E, it solves the app. The only protected form of fiat is Afrofuturist. Ingrid Lafleur uses the Drexian approach of sacred water to advocate for changes in water distribution in Flint. 2, social life can only be understood through social death. Escaping the Drexia case unintelligible life in the same way that violence is unintelligible, understandable by those who haven't experienced social death. And 3 is no perms. A, it causes the end of white civil society. And B, it's unintelligible. Per the attempts to integrate white society into the alternative makes blackness unintelligible. The black body ontology remains untouched and implicated inside the glamour of whiteness which visualizes the gratuitous violence that occurs. Next. Uniqueness 1, the UAE is disengaging from Yemen right now, but they still have strategic interests. A is they're pulling out. While the UAE initially wanted to center southern Yemen, the collapse of the SDC has led to the UAE removing its presence and shifting its approach in Yemen to fragmenting missions. B, ports are key. The UAE wants to influence over the sea lanes of the Gulf of Aden, so they still have bases invested in radar, runways, and surveillance infrastructure in the Maisan Island and Bab al-Madib. To the brink is now U.S. aggression in Iran means the United States is currently the U.S. is currently warm to the U.S., but they're watching the U.S. closely to ensure their postures in the best interest. Links 1, the plan passes. The U.S. interest in the ROI is sole government of Yemen. 2, the UAE doesn't like this in backlashes. They need fragmented Yemen in order to maintain their influence in the Gulf of Aden. The ROI can regain hedge, and the UAE loses influence over local officials, which is what happened 2 months ago. 2, internal link 1, the UAE backlash means no U.S. bases. A, the Zafar al-Jabi air base in the United States are geographically key because they're uniquely close to the Strait of Hormuz, allowing for strikes against Iran. B, absent UAE air base in the United States isn't able to conduct reconnaissance, strike or refueling missions, but allows Iran to recoup and tilt the balance of war. 2, any resistance is disastrous. This gives them breathing room to proliferate nuclear weapons in the south, which triggers preemptive nuclear war with Israel with no second strike capabilities. D, this also allows Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz without any resistance, which would immediately trigger recession, blocking 30% of the world's oil trades. 2, the UAE re-enters war and reorganize separatist groups from the former SEC and create military offensive against ROI. Thumbing the F. The impacts: 1, nuclear war causes inflation. 2, economic collapse from the Strait of Hormuz causes large-scale poverty, which is intergenerational cyclical. Next off.
Guess the F.
Go to the F. Sorry. On the underview. 1, we don't see this political. We see that we cross-apply our England for analysis about how we can use Afro-futurist thinking to create more material change. On materialism first, no, you can see the fact that violence can occur through other mechanisms. For example, there was violence against the slave ships where the black name was taken, where our name was replaced by the white masters, which means that there can definitely be violence that occurs on an ontological overcoming level that can be represented materialistically. On dogmatism, no, we are able to explain other systems. You can never give a warrant for why blackness isn't the root cause of society. You tell that it actually occurs past all societal changes. On inevitable. 1, we don't kill the state, we write ourselves outside the state. And 2, we can solve back for the state. Look, for example, the England the floor warrants. Cool? Mm-hmm. Go to the F. On the F. Your uniqueness in the wrong direction. You can see the fact that you cannot build new hospitals, change ports, or do anything, which means you can extend your uniqueness on the advantage. 2, about how there's A, no new port refueling systems. 2, that they are being deported right now. And C, that Saudi Arabia is backlashing, which means you can never solve for these unique causes, which means your uniqueness dumps yourself. On these points, A, you have no new hospitals, which means you can never solve back for any creation society. 2, that the Houthis have already decided all major road networks, which means you can't ship any of the goods you're talking about. And 3, they're not able to hold it for a long time. You don't build refrigeration units because you cannot change the actual physical infrastructure, which means you never get access to the long-term storage of these things. But also, more importantly, no, you're wrong uniqueness. You could concede the fact that you're not where diseases are rising. You said diseases are rising right now, but they're rising on the war front, but there are no hospitals where the wars are occurring because the fronts of war hospitals have already been bombed, which means you can never solve back for the places where the diseases are uniquely rising. But now, you say that these are fragmentation, but they're going to say this is wrong for 2 separate reasons. The 1 point is that the Houthis can just take your medicine. This is what happened earlier. But the 2 points that also the Yemeni government is uniquely bad for these groups of people. The 8 points that Yemeni government has imputed much of the provisions of the aid through the imposition of complex bureaucratic requirements on aid agencies that have impacted millions of civilians' ability to access aid. The B point is that government checkpoints stop women and LGBTQ minorities from traveling without male guardians, which means they can never access aid because they need the reliance on the state, the male guardian sees that they've recruited and deployed 4,000 children into combat right now, and you bolster the regime. And the D point that Saudi collaboration, the Saudi border gulf killed hundreds of Ethiopian migrants and asylum systems who tried to cross the Yemeni-Saudi border between March 2022 and 2023, which means you're probably racist towards the Saudi people who are like the LGBT groups of Ethiopia. To the 2 points that you also cause Houthi backlash. The 8 points that they steal the aid right now, and so the spotlights the movement. But the D points also they cause strikes to occur. Now go to your links. Your links are in the wrong direction. On the points about HIV/AIDS testing, we're saying no. The Houthis just take your medicine. Look to how, for example, the Houthis just took the medicine that was given earlier on from the Red Cross, which means you can never get any access. This is empirically proven because the Red Cross aid was taken from the Houthis. But also on the PEPFAR on COVID-19 and your impacts. No, the COVID-19 pandemic dumped it. The COVID-19 pandemic never caused extinction, which means you're in the wrong direction. On that too. Except the fact that the Saudi arrestments mean that you can never see this, and there are movement restrictions, and healthcare workers have been kidnapped. You never solve for these militaristic things, which you can never solve back for. But also, you don't stop the war, and the war is the number 1 cause and the driver of this collapse. So, for example, the Houthis are currently bombing STC and Yemen hospitals right now, which means you can never go for it. On the link trends, no, you never do this because the STC migrants and the ROI backlash, they don't like the United States helping, which means they get mad, and which means you never are able to solve for kinetic bombardment. Cool? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess not.
You get the guy.
Yeah. I need the K.
Yeah. I also have a definition for technical assistance. I can like just say it if you want. Or
I'll read the interpreter.
We'll see if we can tell you. Yeah, we'll ask.
Yeah, interpretation. Economic support refers to technical assistance.
do you want me to
Actually, yeah.
write it?
You don't have to like write it out word for word, but give us
Yeah,
the bullet
sure,
points
sure,
of what
sure,
it
sure.
includes.
This is just like a shorthand definition.
Okay. What about the team is the best method of escaping white civil society? Alt vote neg for argument to take the journey of the deep sea dweller to
Drexia.
what?
Drexia.
Drexia? Exclamation point.
And then economic support refers to technical assistance, which includes expert advice, training, analytical support, institutional guidance for economic development.
Yeah.
All right, we'll start flex.
What is the like other basic people that like other agents that may start with this like these
What were this? What were the standards of the students?
sorry. Huh? Standards?
Yeah.
We had 3 standards. The first one being predictability, second one being limits. This is like an FXT standard, and then third topic education.
Okay, great.
And then there was topic. Right.
Huh?
What was the third one again? Sorry.
Topic education.
Okay.
Systems, hospitals, refrigeration units, hospitals are bombed. That's solving their points about they can't solve side investors, restrictions around their they can't solve for these things. What's this? Can't shift these. Oh, they can't shift their boards.
What is the journey of the deep sea dweller to Drexia? Like, what does this journey look like?
Yeah, Arjun goes underwater to Drexia.
Where is that?
Underwater and in an unknown place.
Okay.
The only thing we'll tell you is it's in the deep sea.
Do you fiat the alt?
Yes.
Great. Is your fiat different than our fiat?
Yes.
How?
A couple different reasons. 1, your fiat's illusory because nothing ever changes for the black body. 2, your education method is bad. A, it's anti-black because it forces from the confines of the state. B, it's not unique because the black body has already faced state balance.
Is your fiat material then?
Huh?
Is your fiat material?
It's a
if it's not
method.
illusory?
It's a method.
Okay.
When are you going?
When am I going?
Yeah. After we pass the alt? Is that when you're taking the
Sure. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the only thing that the ballot does is endorse the method as a good idea to resolve for the impacts we talked about.
Yep.
It's not like a or yeah. It's
So you need a ballot.
You vote for the method. The ballot's goal is to vote for the method that best resolves white civil society. The alternative does this.
All right.
Okay. It's gonna be the T, and then the app underview, and then the K framework. Actually, no, I lied. It's gonna be the T, and then the app underview, and then the alt, and then the framework and the links. And then the not the disadd. And then the app in order, and then the disadd. So I'll do that one more time. That was not helpful. So it's gonna be the T, and then the app underview, the alt, the framework, and then the app in order, so solvency, advantage one, advantage two, and then the disadd. Does anyone need that? That's okay. I probably won't help, but I will try. Okay. Start telling out my first word. We include institutional guidance and expert advice. The counter-interpretation is economic support means non-military foreign assistance, which furnishes under Title 22 to advance recipient states' economic and social welfare, including development assistance, health assistance, and other economic assistance programs. This definition is supported by the Foreign Assistance Act under Title 22 provisions. Awesome. On counter standards, what is going to be miseducation? By excluding any part of the definition of economic support, the next circumvents the possibility that we have for a full understanding of how the resolutional actor carries out the resolutional action. This results in either committing, either committing violence and recommitting the violence committed against you. 2 is going to be legal precision. This is from the United States federal government, which means it's the best way to understand the topic. If the topic, you give us information about the topic writer and what the topic writer would have wanted. If the topic writer would have wanted it, maybe they should have said that Yemen should increase its technical assistance. Awesome. On voters, we're going to say, if this is going to be, did they say voter? Okay, great. On the voters, can I have that? Thank you. On the voters, on education, we're going to say the word is probably the best for education. We're going to look to the counter standard of topics or of miseducation. On fairness, we're going to say that we're also probably going to be the best for fairness, but that doesn't. We're using the res as a stable locus, and on competing interpretations, you're going to be preparing reasonability to competing interpretations. because judge intervention is inevitable. Awesome. Let's go to the other.
I might just go for T.
We're saying that policymaking is always going to be key because, well, this is true. And if you see policymaking, you're also going to be seeing the political fully. They don't tell you anything about that, so you're probably just buying that if we see the political, that's always going to be bad. They're saying that Afrofuturism is going to be key for material change, which means we're probably going to be looking at material impacts on both sides of the resolution, which means you're probably going to be preferring material impacts above anything else in today's round. On dogmatism, theorizing absent any sort of theory will lead into a collapse without any sort of form of dissent. You're always going to be having one totalizing theory, which is always going to be bad. It's not going to be able to explain any other systems. They're saying that it will be able to explain any other system, but I'm going to get more to that on the alt in a sec.
You can also cross-apply, they literally say in the framework that, like, the fungibility only explains blackness.
Oh, yeah. You can cross-apply the framework how they say that fungibility only explains blackness, which is probably a reason why they have a totalizing theory, so you can prefer dogmatism there. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else you want in the interview?
I think we're probably good.
Okay, great. Let's go to the alt. First step, just on the alt itself. This is just a disadd to the method. The fact that they require the ballot in order to achieve any sort of solvency means that they require affirmation of white civil society to solve, which means they are never going to be able to solve for their own impacts. You can also probably look to the fact that they cannot tell you when Arjun is going on his journey and adventure. Sounds great, but when is he going? They can't tell us. They can't tell us where he's going either. So that's probably not going to be a reason for you to prefer them. Their alt is not going to give them any sort of solvency. Awesome. They're going to see the political again. You can put another disadd on the alt. They're going to be seeing the political again here. I love to talk about Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani, if individuals in New York City were to see the political, they wouldn't have free healthcare. Young people are the key to the election in New York City. If they were to have seated the political, they would have Andrew Cuomo. I don't like Andrew Cuomo. You probably don't either. Great. Anything else on the alt? Okay. Oh, shit.
Yeah, permit.
Let's permit. Perm, do both. Perm, do the atom and the neg. Perm, do the atom and non-competing parts of the neg. You can prefer the perm because, well, we can probably do the app and then Arjun can go on his adventure. So, great. There's no reason you can't do both of those.
It's good for coalition building.
It's also good for coalition building.
They say that they're, like, counter to each other, but we're going to say that, like, increasing, like, bettering people's lives.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're saying that it's counter to each other. We're going to say that increasing, that bettering people's lives is always going to be better and always going to be good. So, in that world, we can better two different things, and that's awesome. Okay, great. They, on their framework, they say that blackness is ontological, but then they also want to weigh material impact, so we're probably going to be seeing that you're going to see that biggest there. But even then, blackness is material, defined through material experiences and people's material preconceptions of those around them, so you're probably seeing, again, how material is shaping ontology there, so you can prefer materialism first. Where's the roll of the ballot? Actually, there it is. Oh yeah, on the roll of the ballot, you could probably be preferring our roll of the ballot because both teams can participate. Either way, they're at least not relinking into their own K with our roll of the ballot, so you could probably prefer ours there too. On the impacts, you're gonna
No, keep going up down. This is just for when you get to.
Oh, okay, I see. On non-linear time, we're gonna be saying that they probably can't give you anything, a counter to non-linear time, so you're probably gonna be preferring regular time here, plus if you just want regular time. Look to how they're literally listening to the time frame, the time rules that we have in Parley. Awesome. Anything else on the? Yeah.
We're like improving people's lives.
Oh yeah. On the links, we're just improving people's lives. There's no reason that you probably don't want to do this. Like improving people's lives is probably always going to be a good thing. They're telling you about the death of 5,000 migrants and how this is super bad. Medical support is never going to be good. But I'm going to talk about how they're also talking about death not being as bad on the COVID impact on the advantages. So let's talk about that in a second. But I want you to remember this. Put this in the back file for in your head for later. On social death, you're going to be preferring actual death because you can probably be re-socialized. You can't be brought back to life. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Also, they weren't able to explain a root cause of all violence. Violence existed before the, what? Oh, before the ontological construction of blackness. Yeah, that's what you're saying? Okay, great. Let's go to the app. What did they say?
Oh, yeah.
What did they say on the hospital?
We can't bring in hospitals reports.
Oh, yeah. They're saying that we can't build new hospitals reports. We're going to say, sure, we're helping other hospitals that are already there. That's probably going to be especially key. We are literally going to be leading into spillover effects, which is what we tell you in the background, which is always going to be key to individuals having healthcare in the first place. There's no need to, yeah, sure, we're not building new hospitals. That's great. They have hospitals. We're bolstering those hospitals. On Advantage 1, they say that the uniqueness is in the wrong direction. Because they can't have hospitals, but once again, we're going to say that we already have, the hospitals are there and we're bolstering them. Also, they say that these are going to take your medicine, but we're going to say that PEPFAR has program monitoring infrastructure through site improvement through monitoring systems like SIMS. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Just keep
Okay, yeah, you can ask me.
I can talk about it.
Yes. They say that we're going to be bolstering the regime in Yemen, but we're going to say that helping individuals is not bolstering regimes. Even if a regime is being bolstered, you're probably going to be preferring individual lives that are being saved if you pass the AF plan. Great.
The government they're talking about also, like, that they think is bad has just already won.
Oh yeah, the government they're talking about that they think is bad has also just already won the war. So sure, they can be bad, but let's help people also. Also, again, you can cross-apply what I said about movies not taking your medicine lower on the sheet as well on the link level. And awesome, they talk about COVID here. This is where I wanted you to remember, talking about diseases. They say that COVID never caused extinction, but that completely ignores the millions of people that did die under COVID. That's always going to be bad. Just extend that there. Extend the F. That's what we're doing. Awesome. You can extend across the diseases are rising now, which is why the app is key. If the plan passes, we are going to have HIV and AIDS testing being key there, especially since there's already a health crisis. This is key to making sure that millions of people don't die. Great. On the app, on the advantage too, right? Second advantage. We're saying that, the groupies are gonna, what?
They say that the STC will backlash. The STC is like completely intact. They've tried to.
Oh yeah. They say that the SEC is gonna backlash. We're gonna say that's already been done. They haven't managed to do it, so that's not gonna be actually happening. They say that they try to put a link to that we can't solve for involvement, but that's not necessarily true. You're gonna be extending across our impacts and links about how the weakened healthcare system is leading to a healthcare collapse, which is why the app is key on the DIS app. They're saying that watching on the links, Iran has unified the Gulf state, meaning they won't be lashed back to be focused on Iran. The STC, which the group was backing, but that group is not functional anymore, so that's probably not going to be key either. This app just doesn't like. Okay. Did you write the counter into?
I don't know. I'll do that. If you want to do it, you can. I'll do it. Yeah. I also want my sheets back.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, that's fine. I wasn't writing anymore.
Sorry, it's a long one.
You're good.
And I just spelled it wrong too.
Okay. Counterinterpretation. Economic support means non-military foreign assistance furnishes under the Title 22 to advance a recipient state's economic and social welfare, including development assistance, health, social welfare, or health assistance, and other economic assistance programs. 1 minute. Can I ask a question? Yeah. Wait. When you read the post, Red Cross going in, 5,000 African migrants still die. I just accept it. Okay. Post Red Cross going in, 5,000 migrants still die. And I go for this is just a decide to the yeah, like a turn, like it's ineffective.
What is the monitoring that PATFAR has?
Yeah, let me pull that up. It is. Find it for me now.
Oh yes, it's overseen by, this is in the background of the plan. It's overseen by a
Oh,
global.
no, okay, I found that.
Okay,
We're actually
okay.
looking for here. They have site improvement monitoring systems, which essentially is just like, it means that there is a backing organization that is there to make
Is this
sure
like
that
camera? Like, what is a backing organization?
The military, I think, is involved now because of the way that PEPFAR has been reintegrated at the Department of State after the US
So
state collapse.
it's the military.
The military ensures that like stuff makes it.
The
where it's
military got swamped by the Houthis in the past. They took aid with the military anyways.
Okay. All right. Order is going to be overview, the interp, the K, just mostly just like the alt app framework. I'll also talk about the links as well. So I guess you need the whole cat. Then it's going. Huh? Yes. I'm starting on the interp. Then it's going to be the K app framework. Then it is going to be the disad, and then it is going to be the affirm.
Can you give me the order of the K?
Oh, sorry. It'll start with the alt, then it'll go to the framework, and then it'll go to the links.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna.
Overview, interp, the app framework, the alternative, the app framework, then the links. Then it is going to be the disad, then it's going to be the app.
And then it is. Okay, let's go.
Everybody good? The MG only reads 2 responses to the disadvantage, and both of them are uniqueness claims that the disadvantage already have. The disadvantage is functionally conceded and a reason why you are going to be voting for stopping nuclear war happening in Iran and re-entrenching the Yemen civil war, taking out the affirmative. Let's start on the interpretation. We'll concede that we meet. There's no residual offense here. On the, okay. The first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be conceding the permutation. This is going to be shielding out of all offense, but there's still going to be some arguments that we're going to be going for. We're also going to be conceding the framework, which means that there's not necessarily anything that you're going to be voting on when it comes to anti-blackness, and you're still going to be voting for this issue of a post-fiat policy option. However, the one important argument here is the specific links that we are going for. We make the concession that post-Red Cross going in and giving aid to Yemen, you saw 5,000 black migrants still able to die. This is going to be really important because not only is this probably pretty violent, but most importantly, this is going to be terminal defense to the affirmative, which is an indication that the United States aid is not going to be able to be successful, which is going to be terminal defense in the affirmative because it's completely conceded. You are not going to be voting for the affirmative. You're only going to be voting for perceptual links, which only occurs on the disadvantage, which means it's going to be a clean vote for a risk of the disadvantage here. Let's get to it. On the disadvantage, I want you to extend the uniqueness. The only responses that they give are saying that Iran has unified the Gulf states and the SEC isn't there anymore. Yes, we agree with both of these. These are literally in our uniqueness. Let's start by talking about the first argument. We tell you the UAE is currently disengaging right now because the SEC is who the UAE supported is not currently in the Gulf anymore. That's going to be really important. However, we tell you that you make the concession that the UAE literally wants influence over sea lanes in the Gulf of Aden so that they can still have access. They've literally invested into radar runways and surveillance infrastructure on specific islands. Insofar as that is true, that means that the UAE, even though they pulled out of the SCC, they are still interested because they have their own security interests in access to the Red Sea. This is going to be a direct response to their argument about how the SCC isn't there anymore, because yes, we agree that the UAE is currently disengaged, but they are still existing and they still have vested interests, which is why they are currently communicating with local officials. This is going to be really important because you make the concession that the brink is specifically not only that U.S. aggression in Iran means that the UAE is warm to the United States, which is their second response, talking about how currently the UAE is warm because Iran is uniting the Gulf states, but more importantly, we tell you that the UAE is always going to be more worrisome and care about more about their individual interests. What's also going to be really important is the specific analysis that we read is that the UAE really wants Yemen to have a fractured existence. The reason why is because if the Republic of Yemen is going to be able to go into the south and take over where the SEC originally was, then that means that the UAE cannot communicate with local officials and make deals with them and get access to the ports. Insofar as that is true, that means that the UAE's number one priority, more than Iran because they do not care about Iran because it's not a personal interest, is specifically getting access to these ports by the Republic of Yemen being non-centered. Insofar as that is true, you make the concession that the UAE does not like this and backlashes because they need a fragmented Yemen, which means that they're probably going to be re-entering. This is going to be really important because we tell you that this is especially true because they were literally at war with the Republic of Yemen 2 months ago before the SCC collapsed, which means that they still have vested interest and they're going to be going back in because you make the concession that once the United States goes in, it signals that the United States wants the Republic of Yemen to take over the rest of Yemen and they won't be able to get access to these ports. All of these arguments are completely conceded. The only responses are specifically about the uniqueness, which means that we have 100% strength of link and you are going to be voting for a risk of the dissent. At that point, and we extend to the internal links. We're going to be going for both of them. The first argument says that the UAE backlashes, which means that the U.S. isn't going to be able to get access to the Al Dhafra and the Jebel Al air bases. This is going to be really important because you also make the concession that this is not only important for getting access to the Strait of Hormuz, but the only way for the United States to actually check back against Iran from the south, which means that absent this, Iran is going to be able to recoup, overall proliferate, and means that it triggers nuclear war with Israel because they aren't able to have second strike capabilities. You do not read any response about mutually assured destruction, and you do not need any response about nuclear war causing extinction, which means that we have access to not only the most immediate impact, but more importantly, we are a perceptual link, which means that our arguments trigger before yours. We cause extinction, which means that you are never able to resolve for any of these hospitals or these psychic violence arguments because everybody's going to be dead in the first place. Insofar as all of this is true, we have 100% strength and link, 100% magnitude, and we are winning on time frame, which means it is literally impossible to vote for any argument on the affirmative. But more importantly, we are also going for the second internal link. We tell you the UAE, as a result, is going to re-enter the war in Yemen because the UAE can organize separatist groups in the former SCC and create a military offensive against the Republic of Yemen, which means that your arguments about the civil war ending are completely turned against each other, which means you see increased war, which is going to lead to more of the impacts that you talk about and what we're going to be reading on the affirmative about taking out things like hospitals. Increasing the war is going to be a complete terminal defense to make your arguments all significantly worse because nobody's going to be able to get access to any of that healthcare that you talk about with the affirmative. Anything else?
Nope, cool.
Yeah, just vote for this side. Okay, on that. Top level response that we're going to be extending this is argument that Arjun says. We tell you that there's a lot of reasons why specifically the hospitals are never going to be able to slow back. We say, A, there's no port refueling systems. B, you don't create any new hospitals. C, the Houthis are already destroyed the ports for the aid to go in. And D, the lack of refrigeration units. These are the specific arguments that you make the concession, which means that the only argument that you say is that you're just helping the hospitals that are there. But the problem is the hospitals that are there have destroyed infrastructure and they're not able to get any of your aid. But B, and more importantly, get completely worse once you do the affirmative because it triggers war. But C, you just cannot solve. Nobody gets access to the hospitals in the first place. You are not resolving any of the issues. The hospitals that do still exist have that kind of aid. The key internal link that you say yourself in your PMC is the lack of hospitals. This is terminal defense.
They're also not where the diseases are because they're not on the front lines.
Huh?
They're also not where the diseases are because they're not on the front lines.
These are also not where the diseases are because they're in the front lines, which means that your argument about solving back for pandemics and solving back for HIV and AIDS are only in the places where there aren't any hospitals, which means you are not able to get any solvency. The next argument that we're going to be extending is argument about how the Houthis are going to be backlashing. They're going to be able to take the medicine. The only response that you say is that there's program monitoring infrastructure, but there's going to be a few issues with this. But more importantly, we're going to be telling you that you are going to be spotlighting the actual aid going in, which means that in the status quo, the Houthis do not have any aid to target. But once you do the affirmative, they're going to be able to take the medicine. We have empirics because we tell you that this empirically happened with the Red Cross, which means that you're going to be preferring us on a question of probability. But if they go up in the PMR and say that they're able to do program monitoring infrastructure, we say that this is not going to be true for a few reasons. The first argument is that the United States is empirically not successful against the Houthis because the military is not significant enough and the Houthis know the land significantly more. This is why empirically the U.S. military is not only surrendered with things like the Red Cross, but they have literally surrendered to the Houthis when it's come to protecting that, which means that we probably have access to this. But secondly, and more importantly, we would say that currently this is always going to be worse than the status quo and there's always going to be a risk of this and restarting conflict because you are specifically spotlighting the aid, which means that any attempt of the Houthis attacking is probably going to be re-triggering the war. If the Houthis re-enter and even try to attack the aid, then that means people are going to understand the Houthi movement, gives them an excuse to do an offensive, which means that you are going to recreate the issues of war, which are probably going to be taking out all of your hospitals arguments. Insofar as this is true, this is another argument that is not only terminal defense, but is probably going to make these issues of the war significantly worse. We're also going to be saying that this is also going to be a question of psychic violence because people are not going to be able to get access to any of the aid that you're talking about, but also more importantly, this is a question of structural violence because you see, just a lot of abusive things from happening. The final argument, the next argument on the affirmative that we're going to be going for is this issue of bureaucracy. This is the A argument about how Yemen is bad because the Yemeni government has impeded the provision of much needed aid through the imposition of complex bureaucratic requirements on aid agencies that have impacted millions of civilians' ability to access aid. Even if you make arguments that the U.S. is able to do program monitoring to check back, we're going to say that the Yemen is always going to be able to find a way to use bureaucracy to either A, steal that aid for themselves, which means you're not going to be able to get solvency. This is something that you completely concede. But secondly, and more importantly, it means you're probably never going to be able to actually access this because there's too many bureaucratic hurdles that the United States is not going to be able to jump through, which means that you do not get access to this. All three of these responses that we're reading are going to be eternal defense to all of your arguments about specific hospital access, which means that none of your issues are true. The final argument that we're going to be extending is this issue of war being the number one driver. This is something that you make the concession of. The only thing that you say is the SEC is dead. You are just generating uniqueness for us. We tell you that war is the number one driver, not only for access to health, but more importantly, the specific deterrence healthcare system argument on their advantage too. There is no offense from the affirmative. Just vote on risk at the dissent.
Layering, the disad, 1AC. In the order of, yeah. It's an LOR. Yeah. So do whatever you want. Cool. Extinction comes first. One, it predicates all probability impacts because you have to be dead to then solve for HIV and all other impacts. Two, it's irreversible. Once you're dead, you can't come back. And three, it is completely outweighing probability. If I gave you a jar with cookies and I said one of the cookies has a chance of killing you, you would never eat the cookie no matter how many cookies there were because you know you would die immediately. Now, that means that we always go for probability on that level of meta-weighing. On the next question, they might go for probability happening right now. It does not matter because probability is a completely unobjective matter. You have no clue how likely things are because it's just your personal biases. We have no way of evaluating it. The only objective way to evaluate probability is the strength of link because it's the only thing that allows for you to do anything without judging intervention of your own preconceived bias of how things are likely. Now, strength of link completely flows in our direction. One, there's too much conceded defense on the entirety of the one I see on every single scenario, whether it be on the ports, the roads, the shipping lanes, where the hospitals are, whether the Houthis backlash, or whether the Houthi government will even, or the Yemeni government will ever buy the aid. That means there's terminal defense on the entirety of the one I see on strength of link. This is always going to outweigh any kind of probability because probability is completely unobjective and is cold outweighed by extinction framing. Now, more importantly, there's no thumpers they have, or no links to extinction they have in the flow. Their only defense is that COVID-19 caused a lot of people. Yes, we agree, but this did not cause extinction, which means the impact of the one I see can never be extinction. The only risk of extinction is from the DA proper. Now, when you get to tie breaking, you always tie break on time frame of these impacts coming first. You say that this is completely perceptual. The only way for you to solve back for the delivery of goods is on the idea of aid getting deployed. The problem is that this deployment takes time. You have to go through roads, you have to build hospitals, you have to do this technical assistance, but the perceptual DA of the U.S. going in triggers immediately because the second the U.S. does something, it happens immediately because words transit faster than medicine does, which means that you always buy your extinction impacts first. Even if you think they're more probable, it doesn't matter because the perception dissent occurs immediately. Cool?
Yeah.
Go to the dissent. The story is extremely clear here. There's no thumpers because they've only made defense on themselves. The thumpers are only that the SDC is dead right now. Good. It is dead right now. Which means Yemen has no chance. Oh, sorry. That means that UAE is only able to do things through the monitoring. The SDC dead right now does not thumper scenario. This is what we tell you. The SDC is moving away. It's gone, which means that Yemen is still interested, but they can't do anything, which means they're going to be going in right now. Now, this means that you will never see the scenario center. The next thing they say is that there's going to be this collection of the Iran scenario. The problem is the Iran unifying groups is bad because you can see the fact that they want fractured groups. They want the fracturing to get the Gulf of Aden. Holden does a good job telling you why this is key.
The UAE always cares about personal interests more than questions of Iran, which means that they're going to backlash in that specific scenario.
Yeah, the UAE always cares more about personal interest than the question of Iran, which means they're going to backlash the scenario. Now, this is all cold conceded on strength of link, which means you evaluate this first. Now,
if it's a question of the uniqueness, the fact that UAE started a war over this 2 months ago is an indication that the link is true.
if it's a question about uniqueness, the fact that UAE started a war about this 2 months ago proves the uniqueness is true and all sees the link. Now, get out to the link scenario. This is cold conceded. There's no interest about how the UAE does not like this and will backlash immediately, which means that you have 100% probability of the backlash. Now, the impact is cold conceded. The first is that there's two implications here. The first is that the first implication is nuclear war. You can see the fact that the implication is disastrous and causes large-scale backlash. So 2 points that closes the Strait of Hormuz, which completely sequences the 1AC because now you can see the fact that to get aid, you have to put the aid through the Strait of Hormuz. Now the problem is that this means you can never get the aid in the first place because you've closed down these ports. Next, you've also seen the fact that this causes more war because the UAE goes in. Why is this bad? It means that war is the internal link to your 1AC because you can see the fact that war causes large-scale amounts of disease spreading and also the boundary for where the disease is happening is on the border of the war front, which means that the internal cause for your HIV spreading is through the war itself, which means the DA, 1, cold sequences you on magnitude, 2, cold sequences your probability, and 3 is the internal link to your 1AC. Now, say you win your 1AC. There's 2 separate problems here. The uniqueness is cold thump. You first have to get the medicine to a port, but you can see that the ports are destroyed. You don't see that ports getting made. 2, you have to transport your medicine on roads, but you can see the roads are destroyed. 3, you have to now get to the people have to buy the medicine, but you can see the fact that the ROI is corrupt and will never buy the medicine, so you never even get access to medicine. 4, you have to get the medicine to the right place, but you can see the fact that the hospitals are not on the war front. They're not where the diseases are happening. And 5, even if somehow you get the hospitals, you have the roads, you have the ports, the government buys it, which you've conceded 100% the link, you then have to get the aid, but the problem is you can see the Houthis just take the aid. This is specificity. Now, how do you weigh? You have a conceded example of the the Yemeni government causing 5,000 more governments killed. Evaluate our empirics over the claims because you know 1, it's unfalsifiable because it happened, and 2, you know what you're voting on. Empirically, 5,000 more migrants dead, we win.
This acting officer was just like scary. I think they're just gonna go work for second rounds. Yeah, that's the. Yeah, they're just like,
actually have that.
Sorry, I know.
Yeah.
It's like, we have to do that. That's my job.
Alright. It's gonna be overview, disadvantage, weighing. Nog. It's the PMR, which means that will actually get in order. PMR stuff. Alright. Is anybody not ready? Awesome. This is for Grace. They made this really easy for us, so I'm going to make it really easy for you. They fundamentally just understand the situation in Yemen right now and how the UAE is implicated in a way that is going to mean that their disadvantage is never going to trigger. Then once you get to the affirmative, all their arguments are defensive at best, which means they probably so bad that there's at least some chance that we're able to improve healthcare infrastructure in Yemen. Go to the disadvantage. Firstly, I want you to extend unique disclaims here. The STC was the UAE's inroad to action in Yemen. This is the group, the Southern Transitional Council. This is the separatist group that the UAE was working with. 2 months ago, this is the war that they talk about at the bottom of the DA here. They claim that this is a warrant that proves that the UAE will go back in. This war 1 month ago is one that the UAE and the STC lost. This resulted in major reclaims of territory on the part of Yemen's official government. If they lost that war, there is no reason for them to go back in right after losing and go, we're just going to give it a second shot. That's one reason why the UAE is not going to go back in. Secondly, we have the fact that the SCC is completely dead, and that is the UAE's inroad to action in Yemen. We give you warranting as to how the SCC has over the last month attempted multiple times to storm government buildings and take back power, and those all failed. SCC does not have the capability here, which means that the UAE doesn't have a group that can help them get in. And then I also want you to be extending across the argument here that the Iran situation means that the UAE will never attack. They fundamentally misunderstand this. They say that the UAE cares more about its own interests, but that's not actually responsive to the claim that the fact that there's war with Iran now means that the UAE is distracted by that war with Iran and is not going to bifurcate and start fighting somewhere else as well. And additionally means that the UAE is particularly friendly to the US. That means this is always going to be overwhelming all the links on the disadvantage. That means that you're never going to be seeing the disadvantage. Is there anything else you want? Anything else that was new? I don't think. I don't think so. I think I got my. I'll go to that. Yeah. On advantage one. Most of the argumentations on the sheet are defensive here, where they say that we can't fix the hospitals, we can't fix the ports. But we're going to say that's fundamentally unresponsive to the fact that some infrastructure still exists. We tell you that yes, hospital and healthcare infrastructure is much worse now than it was before the war, but that doesn't mean that hospitals don't exist anymore. There are still hospitals and healthcare systems that we can give the aid to. The entire story of the first advantage here is that we are giving aid to this suffering system in order to improve the system so they can continue to function going into the future here. And the affirmative is doing something, the negative is doing nothing. There's at least some chance of seeing a change here. And then I want you to be extending across the articulation that we give you that PEPFAR has a specific program monitoring site, this site improvement through monitoring system, or SIMS, which is going to be uniquely key here. All of the Red Cross warrants aren't going to apply because the Red Cross doesn't have the same system that PEPFAR does, which means that they're not able to warrant out that because Red Cross couldn't do it, PEPFAR won't be able to do it. Not responsive to the specific warrants here. And then I want you, and then additionally, even if you buy that the Houthis are going to be able to access some amount of the infrastructure, probably
Point of order. The argument that Red Cross didn't have the system definitely could have been in the MG and was not in his doing the PMR.
Given that warrant was in the LOC-K links.
I would say that it's a response to the application of the Red Cross warrant on the SIMS warrant in there.
Cool. Handle.
All right, go to 17. All right. And then even if you're buying that that working Houthis happen, that the Houthis are stealing some of the supplies, you probably still buy that at least some of them are making it to people. There's still some amount of healthcare improvement that's happening here. Then in terms of what else do I want down here? Is there anything else you want me to make sure I got?
No.
Great. Yeah, and then the articulations on disease and how all of the diseases happening in areas that don't have hospitals and therefore we can't solve that are going to be fundamentally unresponsive to the story of the advantage here. Where what we tell you is that diseases are rising now. Diseases spread. They don't just exist in isolated little pockets. When diseases are bad in one place, that spreads. That means that diseases are bad in other places. We also give you the warranting here about how HIV/AIDS cases are specifically under-addressed within Yemen, and the specific articulations about the way that stigma functions, and there's a lack of education within existing hospital systems for response to HIV/AIDS. That even having access to a clinic does not guarantee access to treatment. Even if we can't make new clinics or anything, the fact that existing clinics aren't able to provide treatment is what's going to be uniquely key here. The ability to provide materials and education and infrastructure support to those clinics is what allows treatment to occur. That's what gets us access to the impacts here. We're not gonna be going, yeah, they say the COVID-19 proves causes extinction. We don't care. We're talking about just like smaller sick healthcare impacts here. That means that you're probably allowing us at least some chance of solvency on the first advantage here, which means that we have some chance of solving back for the health crisis in Yemen now, meaning that we can like prevent people from dying of preventable conditions, that we can improve the amount of treatment for things like HIV and AIDS, even if some of the supplies are being stolen. And then, sorry, this is getting a little bit messy. I want you to jump back specifically to the AF solvency sheet here. This is where I should have started, really. I want you to be sitting across so they can see that PEPFAR has like historically been really, really successful. That it's credited with enabling 7.8 million babies to be born without HIV infection. That it's like saved 26 million lives, and that there's like proven spillover effects into improving healthcare systems as a whole. This is going to, they don't ever contest this. That means that you flow it through 100% true. That means that PEPFAR's involvement is always going to be able to strengthen the healthcare systems here. Going to the weighing now. You're always going to be referring to high probability impacts on the first advantage here. You always prefer probability because it allows you to like better your real world knowledge. When we are in the debate space, magnitude just always becomes this race to the bottom of who can get nuclear war first, whereas probability allows us to actually consider how things would function in the real world, whether we should be like thinking about like how things function in the real world rather than just ultimately cycling out. Yeah, you're right.
Good night, y'all.